Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire. Hey, Youth Worker Nation, this is Doug Edwards with Youth Worker on Fire, and today I have Ken Blanchard with me. Let me say Reverend Ken Blanchard. He's with blackmanwithagun.com. You can find him there, and also
Speak Life Podcast.
Speak Life Podcast. I met Ken here at Podfest. We're both at Podfest right now.
Yep.
Got to talk to him a little bit about his background and about what his podcast, what your podcast is about, Ken. So catch us up to date, though. I'm going to let you tell it instead of me trying to repeat that story. Tell me how you got into Black Man with a Gun and how that led you to Speak Life Podcast, and give us a little bit about your personal life.
Okay. I am married father of two grown people, and back in
I like that, two grown people.
Yeah, back in the, I want to say the late 90s, I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Back in the late 90s, my wife and I decided to do what you're supposed to do, and that is to find a church that we both can attend to. And I was a rogue. I spent my beginnings in the Marine Corps. And when I left the Marine Corps, I ended up in C.I.A. actually.
Wow.
And I was a protective specialist. So I was the guy who, and family gets stuck in some foreign land, I go and get you. And I was trustworthy enough that they allowed me to stay with family. So they could trust me with somebody's kids and the wife and whatever. None of the stuff that I actually thought was a big deal. I just thought it was me. When I came home, I thought, I want to stay home. I want to try to figure out how to be a regular person, not see evil and terrorism everywhere. And my wife says, they had a job vacancy for something at church. Do you want to do that? We could use the money. I had almost bankrupted the family trying to be an entrepreneur. So the side job was good. I thought if I didn't burn up going into the church, I'll be okay. So they hired me as the evening sexton or janitor. So from 4 to 11 every evening, Monday through Friday, I was at the church. I didn't know that the Lord was working with me more than I thought. Every evening, I got a chance to feed the homeless. I got a chance to help people that came to the church and there was nobody else there. And I also saw some of the evils of church people, stuff that people just do when you forget where we're at. And it made me really sad. It hurt my spirit. And I quit after a year doing this. And the pastor said, okay, go ahead and quit, which I was not expecting. He sent me right out of there.
No help there.
And I thought, oh, okay. So I left. But what was funny was it was 7 days later, I had a dream that became the second confirmation of my calling in the ministry. And I was on fire to come back and tell him, I think I have a calling on my life. And he says, man, everybody in the church knew that but you. And I thought, well, but I'm not like the rest of these people in here. I'm kind of rough. I'm kind of rowdy. I ride a Harley. And he's like, I know. And he's like, that's why I'm going to have you next to me. And I was like, what? There was about 12 other ministers in our church, and when I became his armor bearer, his Jonathan, it was kind of a weird thing. Folks got really mad that I had stepped over some people to get this position I didn't even know I had got. But I learned how to be a pastor from a pastor. I saw him serve people. I saw the pain he went through, and 3 years later, from there, I became a pastor of a small church in a city, and it was challenging. I was going to school at the same time. I was watching the community around this church. I was trying to bring them in, but my church really didn't want that kind of people. I mean, they were pretty particular of which hurt me again. And my family was hurt. They chased out just about everybody that I had brought in there, except for the original crew. So after about 7 years of serving, the Lord let me leave. And if I back up from that part and go to the part that drove me to church in the first place, after, as a security person, I wanted to start my own business. I said they almost bankrupted me. That business was called Black Man with a Gun. I am known internationally as a firearms instructor of color. I've written 2 books about it. I've had a website since 2000. I've been involved in politics and changing concealed carry laws across the country. I've actually run for office once. I've been with President Trump. I've been around the world and back again. But God was still in that for me, which was really bizarre. I thought, are you sure, Lord, you want me to keep this going? But what happened with this black man with a gun persona was that I was the person that was able to talk to hunters, to fishermen, to veterans, to cops, to all the guys who really you don't see in church. The guy who's in the hunting stand on Thanksgiving Day would be listening to my show. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, like more than often, I would interject either scripture or some inspiration, or every once in a while I'll sneak a whole sermon in my podcast that had nothing to do with anything, but it was for those guys. Mm-hmm. And except for maybe like 3 times, there was a Satanist that actually listened to my show who said, man, that was a good show, even though you preached on it. And I'm thinking, but you heard it though, doggone it. So praise God, I got that thing
Absolutely.
through. As time went on and I kept trying to find out where I'm supposed to be, I was still doing funerals and weddings and not having a church, but being ordained. Folks will invite me to do stuff, so I wasn't a threat to them. I wasn't going to take their church, especially when I really didn't want one. I had no desire to be in the path of many of my friends, and I like the freedom of being in the wilderness. And I've created a couple of websites and ministries, podcast even, in the wilderness ministries, I called it, realizing that God was often in the wilderness, and I feel pretty good there. So I stopped running from it. And just recently, I was listening to somebody else's podcast, and they said that you have the power in podcasting to change lives. And it hit me. And it hit me like for the first time to be purposeful, to be on point with this message, to be on fire, actually, for Christ. And using all the stuff I've learned for 10 years doing the Black Man with a Gun show. And I created this new one called Speak Life Podcast, coming from Proverbs 18:21, that there's power, life and death, and the power of the tongue. So if I use this tongue to speak life to these same guys, I can change some stuff. And as soon as I did it, things changed for me. I had power, I had energy that I didn't have in a long time. Things just started happening. The website that I thought I didn't need, it did go down. It actually got deleted from a server from GoDaddy. It was really weird. And I thought, all right, the Lord's just taking out my Black Man with a Gun show. No, he wasn't. It's a weird story, but it's back and it's cleaner and it's better. The website itself hit a couple of snags, but it actually allowed me to fix it and make it better. It's still drawing people. It's doing a better job search engine optimization wise. And it's been my flagship. It's allowed people to find me first, and then it finds my audience. So the Lord kind of used it as bait almost for my net. And because my audience is men. It's men that you don't see in church. It's men that believe, that men who are struggling, but they're not going to talk to just anybody. Men with scars, and they're going to talk the same language. And one thing I learned about being a shepherd is that you have to smell like the sheep that you're leading. Sheep won't follow anybody. The voice they'll hear. In podcasting, in particular, the tone that you speak, the language, the words that you use, identify with other people. So
the type of guys you're dealing with are guys like yourself. I wasn't a Marine, but friends of mine were, and I have other friends in the military. Men in general are like-minded. We have people who are like us that we gravitate to, and that's who we hang out with, and we know who is not like us. We know who's safe, who's not. It's almost like what you did. You really identified with those safe and those who are not. Is what you look for all the time anyway. Yeah.
It's almost like a wolf pack. You know, the wolf knows wolf.
Yes.
And you go, okay, I can talk to you because you've been in the same dirt as me. I can share this because you've sweat like I've sweat. And I didn't think any of that stuff was an accolade or a good thing or a thing that God can use, but he can and he does. So instead of hiding my light under a bushel, I'm actually amplifying it now. Now that I found my purpose. And Speak Life Podcast since October, using all the same tools as you use in any podcasting thing to grow your audience without regard to financing and monetizing is outstanding. I mean, there's like tons of stuff for free. I've had guys call me and confide in me that are deepest, darkest secrets that it would take me years to do that in church because you have to have the men's retreats and there's like really small times when you get a chance to talk to people. But here in almost anonymity, a guy can call me with a voicemail number, an email, and bare his soul without judgment. And then I can return the call. I actually recorded prayers and sent back to people. They'll say, pray for me. Rev, will you please? and I'll stop what I'm doing and pray right then, hit the record button, send it back in the reply in the email. So it wasn't like a long delay. They got the thing like immediately.
Oh, wow.
And then they'll email me back and say, dude, I didn't think you was going to respond. I know you got other people. And I was like, it's kind of like that starfish story. And I tell people that all the time, where there was a guy walking on the beach one day, and he saw a little kid picking up starfish and throwing them back in the ocean. And the guy's like, dude, there's like millions of starfish on this thing. Does it ever going to matter? And the little boy looked at me and like, it matters to this one. So I try my best to remember that even though there's like 1 billion people out here, if I can save one, I'm good. I'm doing as much as I can for as long as I have. And what's cool about working for God is that he gives you increase when you work on his plan. So I get less tired. I get energy from him. So it's sometimes I get messed about my stuttering or my words, and then I listen and remember that I wasn't the only one who had a stuttering problem. Sometimes I'm worried about, well, I'm a little bit too roguish. I might like goat skin a little bit too much. And I remember there was another guy who had that same issue. And then I look at some of the stuff that I've done in my life, and my hands are not crystal clean, and I can't, maybe I won't be esteemed among men, but the Father that I serve loves me like nobody's business. And he has protected me all these years. Like, even from the beginning, I've been in biker groups, I've been with drug addicts, I've been with some really hard case people, and they can tell not to mess with me. They're like, yeah, something about you we want to leave alone. I remember once I was witnessing in an alley in D.C., and it was these two guys. I was trying to invite them to a cookout our church was having, and the church didn't really want to have any from neighborhood people there. And I walked into this alley, and I saw these two guys standing there, and there was a third on the side. He had this giant pit bull holding on with a giant chain and a lock around his neck. And I was like, Lord, do not leave me today. So I'm walking in this aisle, in this alley, and this guy's like, hey, Rev, what are you doing down here? And I was thinking, yeah, I'm scared on the background, because this is like one of the few times I've purposely was not armed. I'm wearing a collar. I'm looking like a minister as if I got jeans on. And I said, I come to invite you guys to a cookout our church is having. He goes, the little church on the corner? And I said, yeah. He goes, nobody's ever come back here before and talked to us. And I was like, I know, but I'm here, and I'm inviting you personally, you and everybody that you can think of, to come to our cookout. It's our summer thing we're going to try to do here. And he goes, you got some guts, man, coming down this alley. And then the guy with the dog stepped forward, and I thought, oh, this is where it starts. All of a sudden, the dog looked over my shoulder, sat down, laid down, and put his belly up. And I looked over my shoulder, too, to see what was back there. And I thought, oh, I got backup. I was like, I can't see it, but the dog sees it. and the guy yanks on his dog's chain. He's like, what's wrong with your stupid dog? And he's like pulling on it. And I'm thinking, yeah, y'all don't see. I don't see it either, but I got backup. So the guy goes, okay, we'll tell some folks. So I walked past him, and I thought, man, I got to tell somebody. This was amazing. So I walked around the corner, and I knocked on a few doors, and people were looking out the windows. When I got back to the main street, and I was walking back up through the church on the outside of the street, those guys had a huge connection to that complex. It looked like the Exodus when I turned the corner. Folks were just coming out of the buildings. I don't know how they did it, but there was 300 people at our cookout.
Oh, my.
Within like 30 minutes. And the deacon, who was kind of in opposition against me for having this thing, said, oh, we better get some more grills. Look what Rev just did. And I was like, hey, it wasn't me, Doc. It wasn't me. So
it was my backup.
I got backup. Y'all have no idea. So I've always thought, wow, I got backup. This is cool.
Oh, yeah. There are angels around. Keep going.
So now I'm here. I'm at a Podfest event, and I got two missions. I'm here to learn to do what I'm doing better. I'm here to connect, because what I found out now is that the job never stops. Like, sometimes you think, like I remember I was sitting down in the bus station one day, and you're trying to get to and fro. There's somebody right in there that needs to hear a good word of encouragement that you're going to pass by. So even since I've been here, I've ministered since I've been here, and I'm thinking, all right, yep, I'm just going to do this thing, and I'm going to get on out of here. No, sometimes it's not about me at all. The work of God is like nonstop, and I don't want to be at his feet one day, and he goes, hey, you missed this one right here. You didn't turn left when you should have. We needed us then. I'm thinking, okay, starfish. I'm gonna throw as many as I can before he calls me home.
There's a phrase, author, pastor Mark Batterson, a Washington, D.C. pastor, He said something on these same lines. Do the little things like they are big things, and God will do the big things like they are little things.
I know, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
What a phrase. It's exactly what you're talking about here. The starfish thing is that we are not God, but who we are is the people who will take a step out in faith. We will take a step toward God, and He will run toward us. That's what you're doing.
And it feels good, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, it's not some hokey thing. It's not made up. This faith thing is huge. When you go to theology school and seminary, and you learn about God, and you learn about the Bible, and you learn about the faith, the history of it, and you get into the weeds of stuff. Sometimes you can almost become too educated, where you think it has to be harder than that. But what I've learned in the martial arts and even in fighting, that simple is best. The reason of that parable about unless you be like a child is really, really important, that a child trusts their father. They don't second guess them. They just want to be picked up. So they look up and they reach up. Daddy picked me up. And that's all. If you get to that point where you believe and you trust in the invisible and the Almighty God, that He's here, that He can help you, and you just say, Father, pick me up, it's done. It's done. But you got to get rid of all your education on that. You know, the ones you're stupid. It's a faith thing. And faith isn't hard. We make it hard. And that was the first word, actually, in the late 90s when I was going through all my trials, really, really bad. Because I was doing everything I was not supposed to do. Trying to fight being married. I wasn't ready to settle down. I knew I was supposed to, but I wasn't ready for it. And my time was running short. God, I had a clock I didn't know I was on. He had enough of me doing me. So he started pulling stuff away from me than what He didn't give me. And I mean, I was slowly, everything I touched, man, like turned to dust. It was the worst feeling in the world. And finally, I'm at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and I had my truck license had been suspended. My tags had been revoked. There was a whole bunch of financial stuff going on all at once. I had a flat tire that I couldn't fix, so I had to get a ride. Everything material that I esteemed, He took it. He just, in like a sweep, it was gone. So I'm at this, at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and He restored all that within a blink at the same time. But I'm walking out wondering what had just happened. And I looked up and I said, Lord, why is life so hard? And for the first time in my life, I heard His voice. And He said, life is not hard. You made it hard. I dropped right there to my knees. And I said, all right, I'm done. I give up. Whatever you want, you got. I'm done.
Surrender's not in your vocabulary.
Yeah. I don't quit. Yeah, I quit.
You're a Marine. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that was exactly it. So life changed for me for that point.
Surrender is not in your vocabulary. Yeah. You're a Marine. That doesn't happen.
Sorry about that. Has some eye leakage there for those who are listening.
Who's bigger than a Marine?
The spirit still burns. You don't know. That story is old. That was in the 90s now.
Absolutely.
And it still affects
God
me,
makes us tough guys into soft guys because He's bigger than us.
I remember.
He's so big.
So, Doug, where we at now?
Here is where we are at right now. Who's that person who influenced you during your adolescence? That one that was inspirational.
There was a Navy warrant officer that was a part of my NJROTC class. And he was the father that I didn't have. He was the first leader that I ever learned about. And he saw a sponge, saw an opening. So he imparted a whole bunch of stuff into me. He made me learn about Maslow's theory of actualization. He gave me big stuff. He talked about leadership and how there was like peer leadership, and there was the whole corporate body structure and how you could become more than you were, and good leaders are made, not born. And here was a kid who, I was a rotten athlete. I was like, I needed that. I needed that encouragement, and he gave it to me. And he made me strive to be better than I was. And I never forgot that. You always have to be, you have to plant the seed of life. And some people, life is too short. And a lot of people are trying to put darkness and shadows and doubt and fear. Those are the cheap ones. Those are easy to do. But to inspire, to lift up, to tell somebody that there is a tomorrow, that you can make it, is more important than you know.
Yeah. And he's a military guy. Here's a military guy putting hope, and we always think of that drill sergeant. But I've heard of drill sergeants crying at the end of their training because they knew where they were sending their troops. That's what that toughness was all about, making them as safe as possible. So I hear about some, not many.
Yeah, and I latched on to that. I learned that I even took some stuff from Rudyard Kipling, that the strength of the pack is a wolf and the strength of the wolf is the pack. That the disciples were there on purpose. They were there to lift each other up, to support each other. Jesus said, I won't be with you always. Knowing that each one that I teach must also be a leader is important. And this guy from high school showed me how to be an influencer of other people. And when I got to boot camp, I was already a leader. And I watched people older than I in my platoon who couldn't handle some stuff. And I started ministering to them, not knowing that's what I was doing. And they were like, how come you care? And I was like, because, I don't know, because you're here, because you're my brother now. And that never stopped. And it just became the way I was. And I didn't know the Lord was pulling me to that forever.
You were the chaplain without being the chaplain.
Yep. You are called out sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't know it. There's gifts in us. And people like to poo-poo your gifts. Some people can make a baby stop crying and don't realize that's a gift. Some people can build. Me and IKEA are like enemies. I can't put together anything. You put a tool in front of me, I freak out. But I think I can inspire people to help build a temple if you need to.
Yep. You can build with a team, and this is for youth workers in particularly. Anybody can listen to this podcast and it will help them, but youth pastors will know it's for them. That's a great concept because youth pastors tend to be lone wolves, and lone wolves can kill or they die or they fall off. But with a pack of wolves,
people fear the pack.
The Romans knew that when they built their centurion force, we know in the United States Marine Corps, know that maybe that one Marine can conquer some things, but that one Marine has been taught to work as a unit because one Marine can be forceful, but a platoon of Marines can take a hill, can take a city, can take a country.
Same thing happened with Nehemiah, same thing throughout the Bible. All you need is your faith and your belief structure to be intact and to know that your team is standing behind you and with you, and you can do almost anything.
Tell me about the C.I.A. How did you end up in the Marines and then the C.I.A.?
All right. Back in the 80s, when I was in the Marine Corps, I got a chance to be on embassy duty because I was a pretty clean-cut Marine. I was a poster child, did everything I was supposed to do, so I got on a really plush job as a Marine security guard in the embassy in Brazil. And this is also during the time of Hezbollah and terrorism. So my profile was pretty high. I was 20 years old, a Marine in Brazil. I was at everybody's party. They thought I was somebody special. I used to hang out with the ambassador, team members within the embassy, state people. I was still trustworthy, but I was a social butterfly. I was everywhere. Where one day, I was targeted for kidnapping by a group. It was the same time period of the bombing in Lebanon. They were attacking Marines in different embassies. So here was this young Marine who didn't know anything about terrorism or world politics, but I was vulnerable. I was doing my daily run it was 3 miles uphill from our house to the embassy. And I walked out the door and I saw a van staring at me, but I thought it was just some workmen. I ran past them, ran over a bridge, and the van paced me. And I saw the guy's face, and I was like, dude, take a photo next time. Why are you staring? He drove by me. I didn't notice it. And again, the third time, I'm going up this long exit ramp, a straight uphill toward a main highway that I had to cross over to get to the Avenue of Nations where the embassy was on this huge mountain. Pretty place, Brasilia. And I'm running up this hill, and I see the van park. Hazard lights comes on, the van opens, and these two guys come out. And then the light came on in my head that I had seen this car before. They had watched me run. They knew there was nobody else with me. Now they're actually waiting for somebody. Who could they be waiting for? And somebody said, "You dummy, you're about to get snatched." And I thought, wow, I don't want to be a kidnapping person. I want to get out of here. So I slowed down and was thinking. I was like, all right, let me conserve my energy, because when I get to the van, it's on. I'm either going to have to run or fight. You only have two choices. And I thought, how about I run? How about I do like the cartoon of Foghorn Leghorn and the little chicken? I run right into the highway, and maybe they won't be able to get me. So I got right to the edge of the bumper, and when the guy jumped out of the van and looked like he was about to grab me, I went into my Jesse Owens routine and burst the speed and shot right past them. They weren't ready for that. I ran directly into oncoming traffic and ran down a yellow line. They had to merge to get into traffic, but by me dodging and dodging, I made the cars go crazy, so they couldn't catch me quick enough. I crossed the street. They were waiting to try to merge over. They couldn't catch me. I'm sprinting for all it's worth, straight uphill to our gate, which is at the top of the hill. There was an off-duty Marine. There was my relief. He was coming. He got relieved early. And I told him what happened. I dove in the side of the vehicle. We did a U-turn back into the embassy, and they closed the compound down. I got debriefed by C.I.A. people that didn't even know were in the country. Told me that because of my profile, I was thought to be somebody more important than I was. So we had like a shutdown. We couldn't go anywhere. We had to have bodyguards for the bodyguards for a minute. But when I got out of the Marine Corps and I was looking for a job, these same guys said, "Hey, man, we pretty much know you. So if you want to work for the agency, we'll find you something." So when I got out in 1985, I passed my polygraph and my background check, and I became a sponge for them, whatever they needed. So I started up with their security force, and then I was an admin assistant. Then I worked in their police department. They had a Federal Protective Service group there. I became like a liaison for other police officers. And then because of my language skills, I still spoke Portuguese, and my Spanish wasn't too bad at the time. They started sending me, it's all during the same Iran-Contra time. So there were a lot of things with narco trafficking and whatever. So I was like a extra. I was involved in some history, kind of like Forrest Gump. Didn't even know what was going on around me, but I was just there. Started my career within the agency.
Wow. How long did you stay with them?
17 years. And then...
And when did you meet your wife?
I met my wife at work.
With C.I.A.? Okay.
It was funny because she liked me first, and I was all Marine and rude, and I knew right away she was too nice for me. So I wanted to chase her away. I was like, "You don't want to talk to me. Go away, lady. I'm not your kind." She was a woman of faith, and she had a small daughter, and I thought, "Nah, you don't want me. I'm the wrong dude for you."
She saw the angel over your shoulder.
Something. I don't know what happened, but it took from that point before I met her to probably another 10 years.
Yeah.
Before I realized she was it. And when I was looking for a wife, I thought, you know what? Of all these bad relationships I've had, let me ask God for a mate, see what happens. And in my dream, it was her, and she had my son in my dream. And I thought, oh, I got to tell her this. So I remember calling her. I saw her at work. I said, "Hey, let me tell you something." She goes, "You devilish mug, what you gonna tell me now? It better not be nothing. It better be clean, whatever you say." Because again, I was a different guy than I am today.
Yeah.
And I said, "I had a dream that you and I had a son." And she says, "Yeah, I knew it was gonna be something nasty." And I was like, "No, I'm telling you, it's true." She's like, No, get away from me for that stuff." And I was like, "No, I think I'm supposed to be with you." She's like, "Well, I've been trying to date you for years, and you've been kicking me to the curb." So I was like, "All right, let's go out this week." And she was like, "No, absolutely not." So I was like, "Okay, never mind." So I went home again, same dream. I had dreamed about her twice. And next day I saw her. I couldn't wait to tell her. I was like, "Nah, it's you. I don't know why." She's like, "All right, let's go out." But the last 10 years of me knowing her, I had been real cavalier with this lady. I mean, if I went on a date with somebody, I would come back and tell her. I mean, I was she was like my sister to me. She was too good for me. She was, she wasn't my type. So I was safe with her, and I would tell her stuff. So we went on our first date. I was quiet because I was like ashamed that I couldn't lie. I couldn't smooth talk her. She knew all my stuff. But I had the best time. I was like, I'm actually free with this one. I don't know. Well, we dated, and I knew within the first month that she was it. So when I thought, all right, let me test this thing out, I'm going to do the parent thing. I'm going to show her my world. So I took her to the range. We went fishing. The boat rocked, and she turned every shade of green there was. And I still fished. And I love fishing. I fish in a puddle. And when we got back on the dock, she was like, well, I'll just have to let you fish by yourself next time. I'm like, but you're not throwing me to the curb? She's like, oh, no, I just won't go out with you. I thought, wow, this lady's different. Maybe our families won't like me or something. So I went to visit her aunts and her mother and all up in New York State. And these old ladies loved me. And I thought, man, nobody's ever liked me. What happened? I said, I know what to do. I'll introduce her to my dad. My dad was more rogue than me. So he went to one of his clubs where he owned and walked in the door, and this guy goes, hey, Big Jim, I think this is your son. Either way, he looks just like you. So I hear this voice in the back go, let him in. So this guy pats me down, and my now wife goes, is he for real? I was like, yeah. Welcome to my dad's world. And we go in this room, and everybody's playing cards and drinking, and the light music starts like an old blues juke joint. And I'm thinking, back in my mind, she's going to run for the hills now. She'll never stay with me now because this is like my other side. He goes, wow, you must be special. He's never brought anybody in here before. I'm thinking, Dad, why you say that? And them two got along like father and daughter-in-law supposed to. And I was like, it's over. It's a wrap. So I proposed, and we've been married for 26 years.
Wow. 26 years.
Yeah.
And you have your son.
And daughter, yeah.
That's right. We think everything is supposed to be clean. It is clean the way he presented it, the way God presented it.
Yeah.
When we are his, we don't have a chance to not be his.
I know. And if you fight it, you'll lose. You will lose.
My scripture this year is, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest for your souls. Because I have been in ministry for a long time, and I started struggling with certain things. And he's saying, if it's not restful, it's not me. How long have I known this?
I know. It's true.
His yoke is easy, his burden is light. If it's not easy and it's not light, it's not you.
Life is not easy. You made it hard.
You know, I'm hitting my head up against the wall. If it's not easy, you made it hard.
We like to add stuff to it. God didn't intend none of that stuff to happen.
We were talking about your business, and Pastor Mark Batterson said his church wanted to buy this place across from the Federal Building in D.C., a crack house, former crack house, and they were going to make it a coffee house, and it took 5 years of praying for that place, and it was going to cost around $2 million, to buy, to refurb it. So we thought, well, I'm going to help God out here. I'm going to do this business. He knew it could make around $2 million, but instead he ended up losing $15,000 of his own money, trying to help God out, of course. And he said he got a phone call one day, and the couple on the other end said to him, "Don't you don't know us, but we go to your church and we love your vision, but your vision is bigger than your bank account, and we want to give you $3 million." He said, I sat back in my chair and I didn't say anything. The couple broke the silence and said, "Pastor, you don't owe us anything. You don't have to report to us or give us any explanation. But this is God. This is for you."
That's God.
Later, he said to God, I only need $2 million. He said, I know. And he felt the Holy Spirit chuckle and say, I wanted to do you one better. Isn't that the thing we need to tell both of our podcast families? To stop trying to force God's hand. Yeah. His vision is bigger than yours. His bank account is bigger than yours.
It's a muscle.
That's right. That's right.
It's a muscle that you have to exercise. You get stronger by the stress. That's why stuff happens to us sometimes, so that you learn that you can't lift it, that your arms aren't long enough to box with God. You figure it out after a while that if you would only relax and let go, that God can make it happen.
That's right. That's right. I know you've got to pour into your children. Tell me something about your encouraging and loving your children. Tell me what you would say to your kids if there was one thing you could say to them.
Dad loves you. Dad just loves you to pieces. I always say that. I always wanted to be a father. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better than Father Knows Best, better than the Cleavers, better than any sitcom that I ever watched. Because some people watch shows, even the Munsters. They would watch the shows, and I'm always looking at the father of whether he was a bumpkin or a dummy, but he always loved his kids. And I always wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the one who, no matter what, your kids would trust you and listen to you. My daughter, when I got married, she was 9, and I was terrified that I had this teenage daughter coming and she was going to revile me and not respect me. But what's funny is my wife says, I don't know how it happened, but she's more like you than anybody I know. You guys make me sick sometimes because she gets on your side, and she's like my daughter. It's like almost by blood. It's amazing.
It's your spiritual blood.
It is.
Your spiritual DNA.
It's totally. Yeah. And she says, it's all your fault. I'm not married right now because I have such high standards. If they don't treat me like you treat me, I won't let any guy just talk to me anyway. And then my son said the same thing. He goes, you made me old before my time. I'm like the old guy in his crowd of his 3 friends. He's like the one they look and trust to. He's the wise person in his group. And I'm just happy right now that he actually found somebody recently. It's nice to watch them grow because you've been there from the beginning. And see them becoming adults that have listened to you, have seen you struggle. And I remember I didn't do everything perfectly. I didn't say everything like I wanted to. Sometimes I was a little too quiet, but they were always watching, and that's the good thing.
Yeah, they're more interested in what they see us do than what we tell them to do.
Yeah. They see me cry, though. They've seen the struggle of Dad. And
they've seen a CIA agent cry.
Yes.
How often does that happen?
I know, right? but that's the part that I just realized about that contrite spirit. I bet you Samson cried.
I bet you did.
But I bet he didn't cry until the end. I bet he didn't. When you're fully yourself, you won't cry. And if some people get you for being a hallelujah guy, an enthusiastic praiser, and the people who don't and try to hold in the Holy Spirit, your eyes gonna leak. Something's gonna come out. You might not shout, you might not stomp, but I guarantee something's going to happen. You can't be in his presence and not change. Everybody who was in Jesus' presence changed. And whenever the feeling or his presence, or I know he's with me or he's helping encourage me, my eyes leak. I don't know. Keep me from burning, maybe.
Anyone who has a passion for people has a tough exterior sometimes, but a soft interior. And they're trying to protect that soft interior, but it comes out with leaking eyes.
Absolutely.
Kenn, listen, this has been amazing, and I got a feeling this won't be our last time that we'll hang out and be together. But your message is huge. God led us together today. We met yesterday, 2 days ago, actually. I knew there was something there, but and this message and your life is what hundreds of thousands of men, and I'm being conservative, need. Because men are men inside, whether they're Marines or CIA agents or whether they're businessmen or whether they're dads. Whatever it is, men are men, and women can't totally relate with men, but men can relate with men, and they know the pains, the struggles, and whatever level it is, we all deal with some level of it. And so you've released some people, I believe. You've released some people in student ministry now, and hopefully like your blackmanwithagun.com kept going on when you thought it was done, that this one to Youth Worker on Fire will continue on for decades and decades to go, and they'll hear your voice.
Amen.
And they'll hear your message, and who knows what that's going to do for them or take them to, but it's going to take them somewhere. So,
Amen.
brother, anything else you want to say, add?
Just remember that life and death are in the power of the tongue. If you can speak life to your situation, you can make a difference. See you later. Youth Worker on Fire.
And we're out.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.